Well, neurolinguistic programming is one of a kind strategy, technique, methodology, way of life that I know for a fact has made wonders for me. It has helped me heal, it has helped me grow, it has helped me forgive others, it has helped me forgive myself for my own flaws, issues, challenges, traumas, failures in the past. And it certainly has helped me become a dominant authority when it comes to business, whether it is because of sales, whether it is because of business development, or just having the right mindset and understanding people overall has helped me to connect in a much bigger way. In today's episode of the ME Show, I have the privilege and the honor to bring before you what I like to call an NLP master, someone who has actual decades worth of experience, not some hype marketer who tells you, hey, just come to my 5-day challenge and you're going to be great just because they watched a quick video or a quick course prior to that. When I say decades of experience, not just in a sense of neurolinguistic programming itself, but transformation and results that have been created. So I am super excited for you. I hope you are as well, because this is the ME Show. Let's go.
Drinks on me, girls on me, on the dance floor, all eyes on me. Who is he? Man, you better come get your girl dog. All eyes on me, party like a rock star. You can find me in VIP. All eyes on me, yeah, where the girls are. This is how your night will be. All eyes on me,
all eyes on the prize, money supersized, G5 super fly, should be supervised. Do or die, open up your eyes, head to the sky, keep a mean bad mommy on the side. Make a tsunami, kamikaze on the mind, spit flow, paparazzi flash shine, get dough, champagne, Merlot, cash and tango, in the VIP, now she wanna touch her ankle, get low, mueve mami como el dembow, all eyes on me, peeping through the window, get mine, get yours, believe it or not, in the meantime, I'ma keep my eyes on the top.
all eyes on me, drinks on me, girls on me, on the dance floor, all eyes on me. Who is he? Man, you better come get your girl dog. All eyes on me, party like a rock star. You can find me in VIP. All eyes on me, yeah, where the girls are. This is how your night will be.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of the ME Show. On this episode, I have the pleasure, the honor, the privilege to bring before you the gentleman that I know for a fact you're going to want to hear from. His greatness, his wisdom, his knowledge, his information, the transformation that he's created for thousands of individuals over the years, the stages that he spoke on, the people that he has impacted and he has worked with, rubbed elbows and shoulders with, as we say. And I could not tell you the human being that he is outside the business world, the thought leader, and the conversations that he and I have always end up in smiles, and you feel like you're taking something away. So I genuinely hope that you are ready to feel the love from our author, speaker, philanthropist, business developer, transformational guru, and I can go on and on and on and on, the one and only, the amazing Mr. Rex Sikes. How are you, boss?
Oh, my brother, I am so well. And after that, I am so humbled, but I am truly honored to be here with you. And I love the opening of your show. I love you jumping into the water with a camera and holding your child. It's so wonderful to be here with you live, to be able to talk to people and to share just awesomeness.
Well, I'm grateful for you to giving us that privilege. So first and foremost, I want to get right into it because I want to give the people what they came here for. The big question is, does neurolinguistic programming matter? Does it work? Is it something relevant in 2023 as we live in a technology world and AI can fix me in a second?
Wow. Well, it's been around for, well over 40 years, and I've been doing it for well over 40 years, and it absolutely does matter. But that said, not all NLP is created equal. When I started, there were a handful of master trainers. We knew everybody. And when the internet happened, it exploded. And suddenly people were selling certificates and doing this and doing that. So it is to some extent, it's a buyer beware market. And I always tell people, if you trained with me, fantastic. And if you didn't train with me, I'm sorry. And I say that jokingly, but obviously it's true because it is a NLP presented right and utilized right is an awesome tool for transformation. But again, it's the tool. I'm not interested in the tool. I'm interested in the mind of the person who uses the tool, because if your mindset is correct, you can use almost any tool.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the basics of it. So from a GED standpoint, what is neurolinguistic programming for those who don't know?
Well, I mean, there's all sorts of definitions and uses from, it originally started as a tool for therapists to assist clients to be able to communicate better, to help people uncover the blocks that would hold them back, and to be able to move forward. I like to think about what I do, because when I came to neurolinguistic programming, I was a therapist, I was a hypnotist, I also was involved in meditation. I'm an actor and a filmmaker, and a whole aspect of my life was devoted to whole brain and accelerated learning. So when I came to the field, my goal was to say, let's use this for powerful personal transformation, and let's not waste, a move. And so my goal is to create freedom in people. The problem with most people is they're either living a mundane life or a horrible life, or, sometimes an okay life, but they seem blocked. They seem limited in some way. And, if you're free, the way I think of it is, if you're really free, doesn't matter whether you're in prison or outside in a beautiful garden, you're free. And so the goal is to free people from that which holds them back, and to free them up so that they can discover their infinite possibilities, the infinite opportunities that surround them, and their infinite resourcefulness within them.
Then I love that. So, what are some of the areas that someone can experience immediate transformation, as little as they may be or as big as they can be? And of course, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So it's really the receiving party is the one that decides that transformation. What have you seen throughout your career? Some of the great transformations that neurolinguistic programming has created.
That's such an awesome question, but I've seen everything. I've seen people get over incredible difficulty. I've communicated with people who are in coma and set up finger signals with them so they communicate with their doctors, help people to overcome severe lifelong trauma and abuse. But with that said, what I really am interested in is taking people from where they are to where they want to go. It's kind of like, I'm really interested in performance enhancement, because all of us have conditioning and blocks and limitations. Those can be resolved. A lot of people think of it this way: whatever you believe about it is how you will live about it. This is something that's really, truly important. We'll talk about this, as we go along, or later in another webinar. But the point is it's not so hard to get people to change as they think it is, because of the conditioning that we've all grown up with. And we've been conditioned by media, by friends, by family, by teachers, by educators, by whatever the powers that be. And we've essentially been hypnotized to be a worker, be a citizen, and to be less than what we truly are. I mean, think about this. When you and I, and each of us who are watching right now, were born, we're this little baby. We didn't have any of the thoughts that we do now, right? We were just a little baby. And we giggled and laughed, and we enjoyed ourselves, and we cried if we had needs, or if we were wet or soiled or hungry, and somebody took care of those. But during that growing up process, we would go out and play, and we would giggle and laugh. And after so many years, we were told no. We were told, you can't do that. You got to be realistic. You must be serious. You're wrong in school. And so we've been conditioned out of the vibrance, the life, the freedom, the curiosity, the fascination, and all the good things. We're here to live, not to think about living, and not to have problems and pay taxes and die. We're here to thrive, to reproduce. And when you understand how the brain works, that's what the brain is designed to do. It's designed to keep you alive so that you can replicate or have sex, but so that you can reproduce and so that you can live. And in order to do that, it doesn't need much energy. And there are people out there who tell you have to take massive action, you have to struggle, you have to sacrifice, you have to do all these things. Sure, you could do them. But look at nature. Nature doesn't struggle. Nature doesn't sacrifice. Nature doesn't do anything. A little child doesn't either. We impose our thoughts on others and on ourselves. And what I want to do is I want to free people up, because once you're freed up, once you free your thinking up, everything changes. Yep. And that's why Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're correct. You're correct. And many people approach NLP or any kind of change technology saying, well, I have to do this. And sometimes what you think is the solution to your problem is your problem. And that's why I'm here to help people overcome the solution to their problem as well as the problems themselves.
It seems that just like in anything in life, really, we have a lot of distractions, a lot of stress, especially the last 3 years specifically, coming out of a pandemic, inflation, political craziness out there, and how it impacts everybody is different, but the stress is real. Let's call it for what it is, right? Like, we're not oblivious. We choose to operate at a certain compass that allows you and I to still maintain a sense of happiness, or our happy tank overwhelms our stress tank. But there are people out there who are just stuck in the distraction of life or in the stress of life. Will NLP be able to clear some of that clutter and allow people to operate much better?
Well, the answer is yes. I mean, we're talking about neurolinguistic programming, but again, it isn't the neurolinguistic programming. I mean, it's kind of like my phone. My phone doesn't do anything unless I use it. Okay.
Correct.
So it isn't so much the neurolinguistic programming. It's a collection of tools and principles that are synthesized and put together, as a package called neurolinguistic programming. But it's the programmer, the person who's using it, that makes a difference. I always say, you can cook, or you can be a chef, you can be a musician, or you can be a conductor, and put all these different wonderful things together and understand all the different parts of music to create a beautiful symphony. A film director uses light and sound and all these different aspects to create something that is riveting, that compels people, that they go on a roller coaster ride. A coach, like a basketball coach, coordinates all of the players so that they can perform their best in order to win. So it's not so much about the tool, although the tool is powerful. It's about the person who uses a tool, and that's some of NLP has gotten in the field. People keep adding things and saying stuff. They'll say, here's 52 ways to change your mind. Well, that's all fine and good, but you could have 52 television channels like we all do. We've got hundreds. How many do you actually watch? Be 3, 4, a dozen at most. I'm here to simplify everything, make it so that you can use it, so that you know how to use it, so that you don't have to remember anything. You don't have to struggle to make anything work. You just do it naturally because you understand. You have the mindset of somebody who is become a person of transformation. And when you transform yourself, as I always tell people, manifesting is easy if you become the kind of person for whom manifesting is easy. If you're not that person, then manifesting can be difficult. The same thing with neurolinguistic programming. If your attitude isn't right, if your mindset isn't right, then it can be difficult to understand or to utilize. But when it is correct, when you are transformed, then using NLP is really, truly awesome and powerful. And I've got people who have overcome major health challenges in their life, who should be dead but are living, people who had no money who are now millionaires and running successful businesses, people who had relationship problems and difficulty who are now in loving relationships. Any of that and all of that is possible, but it's when you transform yourself to become that kind of person and then have the tools that can help you do that.
How do we identify a good or a well-educated neurolinguistic programmer versus the mainstream? I watched The Secret and I'm now a neurolinguistic programmer.
Well, what you want, for example, is, there's a number of stages of learning. There's unconscious incompetence, which means you don't know that you don't know, like riding a bike. At one time, you didn't know that was even possible. You were unaware of it. So you were unconsciously incompetent. And then you became consciously incompetent. You saw somebody riding a bike or someone gave it to you and you knew you couldn't do it. Then there's conscious competence, where you got on the bike and you tried to ride it. And that took however long it took in order to get good at it. Once, after all that time of talking yourself through it and learning to do all the different things together, you became unconsciously competent and you hopped on a bike and you rode over to a friend's house without even thinking about it. And now, even if you haven't ridden a bike in many, many years, you can get back on, and with a little bit of, remembrance, you can still ride a bike. It's not lost. So a great neurolinguistic programmer is someone who can walk the talk, who can demonstrate that they live the experience, that they're not just talking about it or thinking about it. They're not struggling. Most people, when they're trying to change, they're in this conscious competence phase. And so that kind of means 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. But if you keep going through that process, ultimately you'll master it. I have something that I've been teaching for decades called the mastery loop, which is how we master skills, whatever that might be, whether it's your mindset, your feelings, your speech, your behaviors, or your pocketbook, so that you can transform yourself. And so you want somebody who, in other words, there are plenty of people who talk about being nice, but they aren't really necessarily nice. You want somebody who's truly nice. You want somebody who's authentic, transparent, and genuine, and who lives what they speak about. That doesn't mean that they can't have problems or issues, but there are a lot of people who want to do things just because they want to be in front of other people, and you need to know the difference.
In other words, you want to find a practitioner, not just a marketer of NLP, because there's a huge difference, right? There are a lot of people who market a product that is neurolinguistic programming, but there are others who actually are practicing it every single day.
I'll tell you something really, I know you won't be shocked by this, but NLP started in the 70s and through the 80s and 90s. We had, if we were doing seminars, and I did seminars all around the world with a variety of different people, and people would fly into my retreat center and spend, anywhere from 3 days to 6 weeks with me, to learn different things. You had overhead, you had to put on the seminar, you had to mail out brochures, you had to do the phone calls, you had to collect the money, you had to do all these things. And you would see people come into the seminar room and they'd count the heads, count the dollars, and go, I want to do that. They weren't interested in changing people or helping people. They were interested in making
on the business model.
Yeah. The second the internet happened, almost anyone who read a book on NLP said, I'm an NLP practitioner, master. I know people. I mean, I personally know people. They've never, and I'll be as honest to say this. I mean, there are people who and I'm sure people who are watching right now who would know people that I know have never taken an NLP program. Some have never read an NLP book, and they call themselves a practitioner, master practitioner, trainer, or master trainer of NLP, and they've never had anything to do with it. They just know that marketing-wise, if they say it, they can. Yeah. And this is why it's become a buyer beware market. And I don't want to address that too much, but people should know and understand that not everything is created equal. I run everything I do through a process of mine called mind design, which is about whole brain learning and accelerated learning. My reputation is stellar. I've been doing this since the 80s. You can look, back and see the different kinds of testimonials and comments that people make then and now in terms of the life changes that they make because my process is, how do you design the inside of your head and your being so that it's so wonderful that the outside world actually pales by comparison? When you are vibrant and alive, then the world can catch up to you, and not the other way around. A lot of people are trying to change the world instead of changing themselves.
That's factual. And it's interesting that you say that. I have never, ever done a seminar or a webinar about neurolinguistic programming, though I've been exposed and trained on it enough that I use it as just an everyday end user, right? And I always get asked, dude, you should do like courses on this thing. I'm like, no, I shouldn't. I know how to cook. Doesn't mean that I'm a certified chef, right?
Well, right, and I mean that's true. And there's this tendency now to say, if you're 2 steps ahead of somebody, go ahead and teach them. And I'm like, that's okay if you're friends. But, if you're going on a path and you don't know where the path is leading, you can be 2 steps ahead and fall off a cliff, and so can the other person. I mean, you can step in a hole because you don't know where you're headed. You want someone who knows, who's been there, who knows the path, who can say, hey, look at that. Oh, look out for that. Oh, look at how, you want somebody who's done it and who's done it enough. So there's something I wanted to address, and now I'll see if I can recall it. And that is the notion that because somebody calls himself an NLP or knows NLP, that somehow, adds to their credibility. And you said, I wouldn't train it because, I've been trained, but I wouldn't do it. There's a huge difference between being able to use a hammer and teaching somebody else how to use the hammer.
Right.
Again, it's like, I can't teach you how to be an architect. And I might be drawing building designs, but I couldn't tell you how to do it. That's not in my wheelhouse. And so when people understand that nowadays people can be a life coach for $7. They can be this for that. The internet is filled with all of this kind of stuff. What I'm talking about is you should have a connection with your trainer. You should have some kind of, I believe in transmission as well as transcendence as well as transformation. And there should be a connection. There should be, I can talk to you about anything. You can talk to me about anything. And if I can help you, I will help you. And if I can't, I will at least point you in a direction where somebody else might be able to help you. We're not infallible, but we are, think of it this way. People who want to be Olympic athletes They know the value of going to the appropriate coaches because they want to be the best at what they do. And think about that. They're competing for a minute maybe or seconds maybe every 4 years at the Olympics if they get in. But they understand that in order to do that, they've got to go to a coach who the coach may not be doing the backflips, but the coach knows how to tell them how to do it and instruct them and to help troubleshoot and help correct what's going on in them so that they can perform to their maximal ability so that perhaps they medal. And sadly, a lot of other people don't think that way. They just want a quick, they're used to the microwave or the instant on television.
Welcome to the microwave. Yep, you got everything on your fingertips, especially now, ChatGPT. You can literally ask you, can you explain neurolinguistic programming to me? Yep. And it's like the whole thing. And that gets turned into a course. It's crazy what's going on in the world. I want to get into
that's why I recommend these cautions, because it's not so much about in the olden days there was a master and a disciple, or a master craftsman and the apprentice, and those apprenticeships went on for any number of years until the master. Think of it in terms of martial arts, not the two. Thank you so much, Artem. That's very cool. You think of martial arts, not the 2-year track that became popularized in the United States, where for 2 years, if you paid a certain amount and go to class 3 times a week, you can get a black belt. But in the old days, you demonstrated your abilities in order to level up your belt. And the belt in the old stories was the belt became black because it was used a lot. It started out white, and through all of the years of dedication, it became something that was now dark. And that signified that you'd done the work and you created the effort and you went through all the different processes. So I'm here to tell people again, you can free yourself up. You can live a glorious life, because after all, life is about living, not just going through and paying your taxes. And I want to help people live. I want to people look at where they want to be and feel stuck at where they are. And there's this gap, and I want to bridge the gap. And that's what I've been doing now for well over 40 years. And by the way, I started as a hypnotist when I was 11 years old.
I love the sound of that. 11 years old, huh?
My dentist was a hypnotist, and my dad took me to see a stage hypnotist. And so I started learning how to do stage hypnosis, as well as the kind of hypnosis that he used to induce, because he didn't believe in Novocaine or anything. He would put people into an altered state. And so I started hypnosis. Then I later worked with Pat Collins, who was the hypnotist, very famous. But, I've spent my life doing hypnosis. And what I want to tell people is this, and we'll talk about this later, and I talk about it in my program, but it's not hard to get somebody into trance. It's not hard to hypnotize somebody. It's more important to wake people up from the everyday trances that they're in, from their limited trances, from the trances that say, I can't do this. We're going to talk about this later, and how people just verbally, what they say and how they imagine that in their head, it keeps them limited, and what you can do for yourself or for another person in order to be able to free that up. But I want to wake people up and help them become aware that life is to be lived, to celebrate, to enjoy, to have a good time, and that problems are truly gifts. Anything that anyone considers a horrible, I'm who I am, and I'm friends with you and the people around. I would never have known you if it hadn't, this is going to sound bad, but if it hadn't been for the tragedy and the disappointment and all the problems that I had in my earlier life. Because through those, and learning to overcome those and going through those, it ended up in a series of choices that brought me to where I am today. And that means I got to know you. And that to me is a huge blessing. But I have kids because I never wanted children. If it hadn't been for all the tragedy in my life, I would never have had the children that I've had. So, people look at their problems and think, I'm never going to get over this. I'm never going to be able to have money. I'm never going to be able to free. They drag their problems around kind of proudly, like I've been a survivor for 40 years. And I'm like, you don't have to live that way. And sadly, the psychological community, the medical community, the pharmaceutical community, all is trying to keep people convinced that, no, you do. You need a medicine, you need a treatment, you need
that would be a whole different topic and a whole different show. But let me tell you this. Tonight, we got a special webinar that you and I are co-hosting, the neurolinguistic programming special training. And you're going to actually give it all away. You're going to show all the goods. You're going to educate people on how to spot the blind spots and how they are in their, as you call it, day-to-day trends, and help a little bit by waking them up. That's going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for those of you who are watching, I'll make sure that I'll have somebody reach out to you and give you access to the actual registration link, because you have to register so we know how many we're expecting, where we're expecting them, because we're going to be broadcasting in different platforms. And I want you to take a moment and just kind of give us some of an idea of what are we expecting tonight.
Well, as I said, it's about getting out of a trance. Think about this. If somebody says, I'm lonely and I can't meet anybody, that's essentially a hypnotic suggestion. That is a trance. That is what some would say a limiting belief, a limiting thought, but it's just as much a hypnotic trance as what you see in stage shows when people are doing these ridiculous things or these amazing things because they've been suggested to. And we'll talk about that. If you say, I can't afford it, I'd like to do it, but I can't afford it, that's another trance. It's another limitation. If you'd like to say, I don't know how to grow my business, I don't know what to do, that's another trance. And so the point is you need to wake up from the things that you say and or think, because a lot of the things that you voice, there's subconscious thoughts that you haven't thought about. You can't go back and change all your subconscious thoughts. People will say, listen to this thing or listen to that thing to reprogram all of your subconscious, and all that. You can't do it. You can't go back and fix everything. I tell people, for example, people oftentimes have problems. It's as if they have every piece of clothing they've ever had in their life, they're wearing today. And if you wore everything from, your diapers or your nappies or whatever it was called when you were a kid to present day, if you wore every piece of clothing, you wouldn't be able to move. And that's how some people live. And you can't go back and say, okay, I'm going to take this and this and this. But you know what? You can get free of that. That's the amazing thing. You can get free of it. It's a matter of, and I always do this. It's dog crap or diamonds. Dog crap or diamonds. And some people choose to live in dog crap, and some people choose to discover the diamonds. And it's a choice that you make. But when you make the choice, you can drop all the clothing. You can release the problems. You can release the stuff. You don't have to go back and dig through everything. But this is what self-help people oftentimes tell you. You must do this in order to be better. You have to do that in order to be better. If you don't do this, it's not going to work. If you don't take massive action, you're never going to get anywhere. And all of that is bogus. It's myths. Some of them are wrong, and some of them are just blatantly lying. You asked me a question before about how can you tell a neurolinguistic programmer, is good. I've been around long enough to know almost everybody who was somebody at the time who offered value, and then the internet exploded, so it's impossible for me to do that now. So people say, hey, I trained with so-and-so. I'm like, I don't know who that is. I don't know anything about him. But I can tell, just like you, if you watch The Secret or any of these movies that are out there, people who have learned from a particular person oftentimes misquote people.
Mm-hmm.
And they attribute
Big time.
They say, so-and-so said this. And you go, no, that wasn't so-and-so. That was this other person. So you can kind of tell where people are at just by how they talk about what they are able to do or who they quote as sources. And there's nothing wrong with being mistaken, but what I'm getting at is that some people just are misinformed. Yeah. And so let's correct the record. And more than that, because it'll be whatever it is. But if you're wanting to be free, if you're wanting to go and change your life and be able to do the things you've always wanted to do and get stellar results, we can skyrocket those results. And we'll start this evening.
Sounds amazing. I'm so looking forward to it. It is going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Drop in the comments. Send me the info if you want to have a part of tonight's webinar. And I know exactly the value that you offer, Rex. It's been recognized not only globally, but for me, it has been a direct impact. Every time we talk, it's always been positive, walk away with a smile and a call to action, whether I knew it or I did not. So I cannot wait for tonight. For everybody else that is watching, as I've mentioned, just let us know that you want to have access to this webinar this evening. and we'll make sure that one of our team members sends you the direct link. We don't want to just publicize it for all, but it's going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be a private Zoom, and we'll leave a little bit of time for open Q&A, so you may even have the opportunity to have one-on-one conversations with the one and only Rex Sikes. So with that, we appreciate, love, and thank you. And until later on tonight, hey, Rex, tell them peace out, everybody.
Peace out, everybody.